This is Comic Book Lexicon. I'm Stephen Thomas.
And I'm Joshua Grand Rapids.
And this is Wolverine Volume 2, Issue Number 3. This was published in 1988, written by Chris Claremont, penciled by John Buscema, inked by Al Williamson, lettered by Tom Orzechowski, and colored by Glynis Oliver.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so when we left off, Wolverine is now consumed by the Black Blade.
Yes.
And him and the Black Blade have become one, and he's talking about sacrificing Jessica Drew.
Yes, and they're doing the fucking thing. You weren't heavy on Marvel comics. At least not as much as I was.
No.
I know you had some.
Yeah.
But like when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, Marvel was doing this gimmick where they'd kind of do the stupid kids TV show thing where it's like if you watch a sitcom, like anything that's made by people who are underestimating the intelligence of the audience, they'll start off with like 5 seconds of that last episode.
Yeah.
So like sitcoms, if there's a part 2, we can't just remember that Michelle dropped her doll at Disneyland. We have to see her drop her doll at Disneyland again. And then the episode keeps going from there. Like it's not even a previously on type shit. Cartoons did that a lot. Marvel Comics did that a lot. Like after they moved away from the Jim Shooter, I'm gonna tell you all my powers and my origin story in every issue. They did this shit where it's like the last page of the last book is gonna get reinterpreted as the first page in the next book. And they do that here.
Yeah, because
for some reason I don't hate it.
Well, because it's an incredible drawing by John Buscema, so it's, this is a great drawing. I mean, I love the lighting and everything about it. So from the ground, you see Silver Samurai and Lindsay, and they're like, oh,
Lindsay,
no.
who is still drunk.
Yeah. And she's freaked out because her best friend roommate is now kidnapped or being held captive by Wolverine. She's passed out and all that stuff. So.
And I kind of love that Lindsay being drunk is like an actual plot point that's kind of important.
So then Silver Samurai saves Lindsay from the burning building.
Yeah, he basically tells her, like, I don't think he knows that she's actually had some courage juice, but he tells her that her courage and her loyalty to her friend are impressive, but they kind of outmatch her intelligence.
Yeah.
So, like, don't run into a collapsing building.
And they do a lot of stuff in here, like little hiccups.
Yes.
To, like, really accentuate, like, how she's pretty buzzed or whatever.
Sometimes it's really irritating when they do that in books. It's really fun in this.
Yeah.
The whole rhythm that they give her through this book, like, is really rewarding.
That's a bunch of pirates running around.
The first time in the series, we're at the Princess Bar.
Yes.
Which is one of the main sites of the last series, the Marvel Comics Presents Save the Tiger series.
Yeah.
And this police chief, right?
The police chief from Madripoor.
He's talking to O'Donnell.
And they're very frank about how corrupt the police are.
Yeah.
Like, between each other. Like, you seem all right. Last time I saw you, you were supposed to be, quote, a guest of that Roche crime lord. And he's like, yeah, I could have used your help then. He's like, oh, our hands were tied. Oh, don't worry. I understand. No hard feelings. It's fucking great.
Yeah.
If only we had that honest of an approach to our fictional police.
So then Lindsay and the Silver Samurai show up at the Princess Bar to see O'Donnell. Trying to figure out what's going on. I'm trying to remember what he says to them.
Basically that they risked putting him in hot water.
Okay.
Like, the police chief knows that the Princess Bar is plugged into everything. Yeah. Like, it's the Mos Eisley cafe of this little universe. So, the police chief, the first person he wants to talk to gather intelligence about that warehouse fire is O'Donnell. And then this white girl and a silver fucking samurai walk in the door. He's like, what are you trying to fucking do to me, man?
Well, in this, I
You're
think
lucky I'm English. I'd lose my cool.
at some point the Silver Samurai is like, I'm a wanted man all over the world. Like, why didn't that guy try? He knows who I am. Like,
Yeah.
And O'Donnell's explaining to him like it's corrupt and it's bigger. Like
Yeah.
he realizes like there's more at play, whatever.
And he also explains that he has the 3 cult members that tried capturing Lindsay at the get of all this.
In the hotel.
He's got them in the basement of the Princess Bar.
Yeah. And that's where we are here. They're all tied up. And now Lindsay kind of puts on this performance.
Yes.
She's trying to get answers about where her roommate is.
And it's supposed to be a spoiler that it's a performance, but only a spoiler to the characters involved. It's written deftly enough, I think, that you can tell that she's doing the I'm an actress and this is going to be fun for me thing through this entire thing, while she cuts the ropes on this cultist lady over here, takes her off into the dark, and makes it look like she's murdered her.
Yeah. Well, this panel to me was a big giveaway because this looks like it looks like play acting almost.
Right.
And he even gives her like
there's a lot
jags
of
the
over
teeth.
the topness in Buscema's art.
That's true.
So,
It could be either, yep. So these two think that she just beat that lady to death or killed her.
yeah. Yeah, that horrible scream is actually let out by Lindsay, but they don't know that. They also don't know that the red on her blade is makeup from the ladies that entertain people at the Princess Bar.
Yeah. So now they're going to start talking.
Yeah.
And O'Donnell kind of like takes over from there. And the Silver Samurai follows her outside, and I think he's the one that actually knew that it was a.
Yeah, he tries negging her. Like,
yeah.
that was a performance, I could tell. And she's like, they couldn't.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. I wish my producer from that recent sorority slasher movie that I did, like, it might actually just be called Sorority Slasher, but I wish he was here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, if the producer from Sorority Slasher had only seen this. So she's very proud of herself. As she should be. That whole sequence is fun, as is this.
And I'm not sure where they are at this point. Are they at a hotel or is this
It's unexplained.
maybe O'Donnell's place?
No.
Oh, they're in a bar.
They're still in the Princess Bar.
Yeah, so they're still in the Princess Bar. At this point, the Silver Samurai is like practicing his sword skills in his underwear.
Yeah, and she gets a really fun line as she wonders to herself, maybe it's true. I mean, they word it much more delicately, but maybe it's true about swords and other weapons being an extension of the guy's dick. So, she's just, wondering if he can fuck like a porn star.
Yeah.
As she's watching him play ribbon dancer with his sword.
Yeah. So now, Silver Samurai, Lindsay, and O'Donnell are about to go try to save Jessica Drew from being sacrificed.
Yeah. And there's this old ruined pyramid because this cult is that old. They say it in the first issue, the cult is possibly as old as Japan itself.
Yeah. And it's like in the middle of nowhere. It's their hideout. And then I'm trying to remember what happens. One of them decides to stay behind, right? Silver Samurai, O'Donnell, and Lindsay are going to infiltrate this hideout.
Yeah.
Right? And they decide that O'Donnell is going to stay behind. And Lindsay and the Silver Samurai are going to go in.
Right.
And Lindsay's...
O'Donnell's kind of covering the entrance in case anything goes wrong.
Yeah.
Basically.
And Lindsay's like, why am I going and not him? Like, he's more suited to do it. Silver Samurai's like, Jessica knows you. She's going to trust to go with you while I try to deal with the cult and Wolverine.
And they segue into a moment that kind of develops confidence for her. as they're talking. Like, she's messing with the rifle, prepping it, and O'Donnell comments on her handiness with the weapon. She's like, oh, well, I was on such and such a show and they had real military people as consultants, and they like talking to anyone that'll listen. So that's the fun thing about being an actor and actress. You learn a lot of stuff as long as you are interested in it and retain the information, because everyone on the crew wants to talk about what they do. And he tells her it's not the movies, and she's like, yeah, but if I think about that, I'll start screaming. And so they just, walk into this cult's chamber, and they're all chanting and everything.
Yeah. And then before they go in, Silver Samurai's like, I'm not going to be able to get to Wolverine before he's able to sacrifice Jessica, so you're going to have to kill Wolverine.
Yeah, he helps her pick a sniper's roost and tells her to just pick him off.
Yeah. So now we're inside the hideout now.
Yes.
And this is Wolverine. He's got the black blade. He's dressed up like a demon, I guess.
Yeah.
And
some kind of Oni thing, except the cult isn't necessarily even established as Japanese, so I don't know if it's an Oni or what. Like, he's just some ceremonial demon mask thing.
And you brought this up earlier. In the book, Jessica Drew has the white headpiece on with the red tassels.
Yeah, it's like this white bonnet with like red embroidery on it and these red tassels coming down.
But if
they fucked up the cover.
If you look back at the cover, it looks like a golden headpiece with blonde hair almost.
Yeah, and Lindsay's a redhead, so it doesn't even look like her. Like, who's that supposed to fucking be?
Yeah.
And it's all the art's done by the same people.
Yeah, so I don't know how they fucked that up.
Guess is a red herring.
So he's getting ready to sacrifice Jessica, and she's like under a trance, right? Like, I don't.
Yeah, like she's no longer possessed, but she's still just like in this weird enchanted state. Where
She's very submissive.
Yeah, she's not even verbal.
What's up?
So now, and Lindsay's struggling. She like doesn't want to kill Wolverine, but she's like,
she still thinks she doesn't know Wolverine is Wolverine. She hasn't seen him pop his claws, so she doesn't know that he's an X-Man or that she's known him before. But just in the time that she's spent with him as Patch, she likes him, and she tells herself like, he's an innocent. Like, even if he takes her life, it's not him, it's the fucking sword.
Yeah. And she doesn't know that he could potentially live through this because he's a mutant. And
right. She doesn't know about his adamantium skull.
So when I put his bullet in his head, he's going to be totally gone, whatever. And so she shoots him, hits him right in the dome, and she's like, I killed him. This is where the cult kind of goes crazy, and then Silver Samurai has to fight them off.
Maybe he serves.
You don't know. He might serve.
Japan's surrounded by water.
Yeah.
And they get killer tsunamis and shit too, man. But this is like, even the particular purple that they use, because you don't see this used a lot in the late 80s. Like, this is a very Silver Age shade of purple. The composition and flow, where it's like these panels are connected by this crowd of cultists, even though they're not facing all the same direction, they're not doing all the same thing. These are three distinct scenes, but the way it's all composed, they just kind of like flow in this S around him. So Jack Kirby to me.
Yeah. Well, it definitely makes him feel like he's surrounded.
Yeah, it accentuates that surrounded vibe just by the way they use the panels. Like, this could be 18 guys and it looks like 100.
And it like heightens the drama of the moment, because like in this moment, Wolverine's dead on the ground. The cult are freaking out. Lindsay's upset. Jessica
and they know him
there.
by name. They're like, that's the Silver Samurai. He fucking wants this blade.
Mm-hmm. So he's fighting, and now she makes her way up to Jessica. She's gonna try to save her. And then we find out that Wolverine, or Patch, is not dead, and he grabs Lindsay by the wrist.
Yeah.
At that moment, before he kills her, Silver Samurai is able to get in between them, and they start fighting.
And thanks to Silver Samurai's powers, his blade is as destructible as the Muramasa blade. Even though he's, I think when he was doing his whole ribbon dancer thing, he was explaining to Lindsay that there's nothing special about his sword. Like, he's proud of his sword and he bought himself a good sword, but like, thanks to his powers, anything would do just as well as his. Like, he could take something from a souvenir shop and make it work as well.
Yeah. So right before Wolverine is about to kill Silver Samurai, Lindsay fires another one off and hits Wolverine in the side.
Yeah.
He gets annoyed and he throws the sword, barely missing her. And this is the point where him and Silver Samurai are gonna fight, and he retrieves the blade, it looks like. And
Yeah. He and Silver Samurai start fighting at the altar, but I don't know if it's unclear if it's strictly the power of love saves the day type of thing,
right,
or if it's because he temporarily severed his connection with the blade by throwing it and trying to spear Jessica, or trying to spear Lindsay. But he's like, I'm just, with a bunch of Thor speak talking about how I'm gonna, come at you and kill you, but oh no, these are my friends. No, the Black Blade has no friends.
So he's struggling with like the inner struggle or whatever. Finally, he throws it away, right?
He throws the mask away and chucks the sword so hard it pierces the wall.
Yeah, and then he sort of like tumbles down, and they're like, "Oh my god." At this point, it looks like Silver Samurai is about to finally take the blade.
Yeah, and he does, and Jessica Drew's disenchanted because Wolverine's no longer possessed, so that whole bond's broken. And they note how it doesn't change the way Silver Samurai speaks or behaves at all. He's like, well, I guess it's because I'm really the one it wants. It doesn't have to change me.
Yeah, and so the Silver Samurai takes off with the sword like he wanted, and then Wolverine picks up Jessica Drew, and they walk away, all three of them alive.
Yeah.
And that's the end.
Into the proverbial sunrise.
Yeah, and so that's the end of like the first story in the Wolverine Volume 2.
Yes, and some of the best characterizations, and like Chris Claremont is not bad at giving people distinct voices. Chris Claremont is not bad at managing to deliver great character beats while still propelling the story forward. But I feel like he does it better in these 3 issues than anything I've read.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Aside from maybe X-Men 275, but that's like a double-sized issue and whatever.
You're like way more familiar. Like, obviously I'm familiar with Chris Claremont, but just not like you are. So I'm not as versed on all of his different writings. So.
Well, I mean, look at it this way. Like, this issue was super engaging, right?
Yes.
Like, you really enjoyed reading it. I really enjoyed reading it. We have Wolverine here, which is really just a carryover from the previous issue. And then we have 2 panels of Wolverine disappearing into fire. We don't see... This is page 2. We don't see him again until page 18.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And so we're spending all this time with lame-ass Silver Samurai and O'Donnell and Lindsay McCabe, Lindsay Maccabee. I don't know if you'd get away with this today, for one.
Like, the editor might not be...
I think on all fronts, everyone would be pissed. The editor would be pissed because this is Wolverine's book, and we spent 2/3 of it away from him. So we're not putting our intellectual property that has all this movie value and blah blah blah. We're not putting that forward. We're not doing the things that Disney wants us to do, whatever. Yeah. But you'd also, with the decompressed storytelling that happens today, because we get lots of character moments in here. If this was a Bendis book, we'd only get character moments. There would be stuff happening at the beginning and stuff happening at the end. And to establish that character, the fun dialogue would have to kind of just be fun dialogue. Yeah. And so you'd have all that fun dialogue being had in these pages with no Wolverine in addition. So like people would take the book home and complain about how it was a book that didn't have the main character in it and nothing happened.
Yeah.
Claremont is able to have all these like lovingly embellished character moments that are just like full of energy and like fun, snappy dialogue without failing to move the story forward.
Well, and it can be brief too. What I like is between the visual storytelling and the writing, there's a lot of little things that they do to help add to it. Like for me, when we're in the Marvel Comics Presents Save the Tiger series, we kind of know O'Donnell's we kind of know that he's like a real dude. But the first time we see him here and he's got the jacket and he's finally holding this gun, it just adds something to the character. Like you know he's like a bad motherfucker. Like
and they establish it in one panel.
Yeah.
Like he's talking about basically the psychology of the Black Muramasa blade, and he says, "Too flippin' metaphysical for me, mate. Occasionally, you English are too iconoclastic for your own good." And like in this little exchange between these two men, we learn as much about them as we would in like 2 pages of a modern comic. There's so much that could be gained by people revisiting this kind of stuff, and not just like, you know, how many old heads does it take to screw in a light bulb? You know, like one to hold the ladder, one to screw in the bulb, and 57 to stand back and complain about how cool the old light bulb was. It's not that. Yeah. Like this was 150 and was on Baxter paper and had less ads, so it was like a special book back then. And you do pass ads in this, but you know, in a normal comic, we'd be passing a lot more ads. Like we'd have that middle section where it's like kind of 4 pages of ads. So they're getting less money from their advertisers. They're putting more money into it, and it's still only $1.50 back then. This was when other comics cost $1. That would make this like a $7 book today.
Yeah.
And less would happen in that $7 book. People should feel ripped off by that.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like between the first 3 issues, like you talked about, we get a whole story.
Yeah.
Beginning to end. Even though I love how we, you know, when the universe of Madripoor is already established, but like this is like a totally new...
They do a fine job reestablishing it for you here.
Yeah. And
they still play the game of not supposing that you've read everything before. Yeah. So O'Donnell gets reintroduced. Yeah. Madripoor gets reintroduced. Even Wolverine gets reintroduced. I don't have enough good to say about it.
Yeah, it's wonderful. We're going to cover the rest of the Buscema Claremont run 1 issue at a time. The next arc is the Rough House Blood...
I think they call it Blood Sport, but it's like the character Started out some other name, but he's Bloodscream now.
Yeah. And so that'll be coming up next. All of our information is in the description of this video. My Instagram, Josh's Instagram, and the Comic Book Lexicon Instagram. Oh yeah, we didn't even cover the Wolverine gallery.
It's Kevin Nolan.
He's eating a bird. Thanks for watching.
Indeed. Go eat a bird.
It's written by John Buscema.
It's drawn by Chris Claremont. It's lettered by Glennis Ween.
Fuck. It's like my mind was just wandering for a second.
You should just keep going.